Okay, so like, are you fascinated by how athletes like develop these crazy skills?
Yeah, definitely.
Well, get ready to like rethink everything you thought you knew.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because like in this deep dive, we're exploring a completely new way of looking at like physical learning, you know?
Okay, cool.
We're doing a deep dive into the Freestyle Trampoline Association's approach to training.
Okay.
And like specifically their concept of the Rotational Possibility Frontier,
Interesting.
or RPF for short. It's pretty mind-bending stuff.
Yeah, I mean, what I find intriguing about their approach is how they break down like movement into these like basic elements, internal and external rotations.
Yeah.
And it really like underscores that our bodies are like in constant rotation, even when we're just like standing still.
Oh, totally.
Yeah.
That's like one of the things that really stood out to me too.
Yeah.
Makes you realize like just how much we take for granted about how our bodies move.
Mm-hmm.
Can you like unpack those two types of rotation a bit more for us?
Absolutely. So internal rotation refers to the movement like within our joints.
Okay.
So think about the different ways your knee can move.
Mm-hmm.
It can bend and straighten, but did you know that's actually like rotation too?
Oh, really?
We call that flexion and extension.
Okay.
Your knee can also like rotate inward and outward slightly.
Oh, well.
That's called abduction and adduction.
Mm-hmm.
And like, it's not just the knee. Every joint in your body, from your hips and shoulders to your elbows and wrists, has its own like unique set of rotations.
So, okay, so like internal rotations are basically like all the ways our joints can move around their axis.
Exactly.
But like, how does that translate into, actually doing stuff?
Yeah.
That's where the external rotations come in, right?
Exactly. External rotations are how we like interact with the world around us.
Like-
So think about like pushing off the ground to jump.
Right.
That's an external rotation
Mhm.
created by the internal rotations in your ankles, knees, and hips.
Okay.
Or like swinging a baseball bat. That smooth arc is a result of a complex sequence of internal rotations in your shoulder, elbow, and wrist, generating that powerful external rotation of the bat.
Wow. So like every movement we make, no matter how simple or complex, is like a combo of these internal and external rotations.
Exactly.
I'm starting to see how this connects to the RPF idea. But how do they like actually calculate this frontier?
So it's all about like mapping out the possibilities.
Okay.
Imagine adding up all the degrees of rotation in every joint in your body.
Okay.
That's the internal component.
Mm-hmm.
Then you like add in the degrees of rotation you can achieve in relation to the external environment. So like spinning, cartwheeling, those 360 degrees on each axis.
So you're saying they're calculating like every possible position our bodies can move through?
Yeah, pretty much.
That's got to be a massive number.
It is, and that's kind of the point.
Yeah.
The RPF gives us a sense of the sheer like vastness of human movement potential. It highlights the countless degree-sized steps our bodies can like theoretically perform.
Okay, but like, here's where I'm getting a little lost.
Okay.
I get the concept,
Yeah.
but how does like knowing this massive number actually help coaches and athletes?
Okay, so that's where the real magic happens.
Okay.
So think about a skill like a backflip.
Mm-hmm.
A coach might typically focus on the overall movement, like getting the athlete to rotate 360 degrees.
Okay.
But the RPF encourages a different approach,
Right.
one with much finer granularity.
So you mean like breaking it down into smaller chunks?
Precisely. Instead of like aiming for that full 360 right away,
Right.
the RPF would have the coach like break the skill down into tiny degree-sized increments.
Okay.
They might start by helping the athlete master like a 10-degree rotation, then 20, and so on.
This is more like building a complex machine,
Right.
piece by piece.
Yeah.
Ensuring like each component is perfectly calibrated before moving on to the next.
That's a great analogy. It's about focusing on the smallest building blocks of movement,
Okay.
ensuring each one is mastered before adding complexity.
That makes sense. But wouldn't like focusing on such tiny increments take forever?
Well,
Wouldn't it be more efficient to just go for the whole movement and make adjustments as needed?
it might seem counterintuitive, but focusing on those minute details actually leads to faster and more effective learning in the long run.
But really?
Yeah, and that's because like every movement, even the smallest one, involves this complex interplay of muscles, nerves, and sensory feedback.
Okay.
When we like break a skill down into these tiny increments, we're essentially giving our brain the time and space it needs to like process and internalize each step.
I see. So it's not just about muscle memory then, right?
Yeah.
It's about like training our nervous system
Yeah.
to control these movements with precision.
Precisely. You see, muscle memory is kind of like an oversimplification.
Okay.
It's not just the muscles remembering, it's the entire neuromuscular system.
Right.
Which includes the brain, the spinal cord, and that intricate network of nerves that connect them to the muscles.
Okay, so by focusing on those tiny steps, we're basically like rewiring our nervous system to
Yeah,
perform the skill more efficiently and effectively.
exactly.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah.
But I'm still like struggling a bit with the practical side of things, you know?
Yeah.
Can you give me like a real world example of how a coach might use this RPF approach
Sure.
to improve an athlete's performance?
Absolutely. Let's say you have a gymnast who's struggling to land a double backflip.
Okay.
Traditionally, a coach might focus on adjusting the athlete's takeoff angle, body position,
Yeah.
or rotation speed.
Okay.
But using the RPF, the coach would break the skill down into much smaller increments,
Okay.
examining each phase of the rotation in like meticulous detail.
So instead of looking at the entire double backflip as one big movement,
Right.
they're like zooming in on each tiny rotation within that movement.
Exactly. They might notice, for example, that the athlete is like losing control during a specific 15-degree segment of the rotation. By isolating and addressing that specific segment, they can make adjustments that have a ripple effect on the entire skill.
Oh, I see. So it's kind of like finding a tiny glitch in a complex piece of software.
Yeah.
You fix that one line of code,
Yeah.
and suddenly the whole program runs smoothly.
That's a great way to put it. And the beauty of this approach is that it not only like improves performance,
Right.
but it also reduces the risk of injury.
Right.
By ensuring that the athlete has mastered each tiny increment, the coach is like minimizing the chances of them pushing their body beyond its limits.
Makes sense?
Yeah.
It's about building a solid foundation brick by brick instead of trying to like construct a skyscraper on shaky ground.
Precisely.
Yeah.
And this idea of breaking down skills into smaller progressive steps is also central to the Woodward training program.
Right.
So both the RPF and Woodward share this philosophy of progressive skill development. Okay. But they approach it from slightly different angles.
Okay.
Woodward focuses more on the physical environment and equipment used for training,
Right.
while the RPF provides like a conceptual framework for understanding the underlying mechanics of movement.
So Woodward is more about like providing the tools and the environment for learning, while the RPF is more about the mental model,
Yeah,
the way we like conceptualize and break down skills.
exactly. Think of it this way. Woodward might provide a series of ramps, foam pits, and other training apparatus
Okay.
that allow an athlete to practice skills in a safe and controlled environment, gradually increasing the difficulty as they progress.
So they can like work their way up to that double backflip by first mastering a single backflip on a trampoline,
Right.
then maybe trying off a small ramp into a foam pit and so on.
Exactly. And as they progress through these stages, the RPF provides the coach with a framework for like analyzing and refining the athlete's technique, focusing on those tiny increments of rotation that ultimately lead to mastery.
So the two approaches actually like work really well together.
They do.
Woodward provides like the physical pathway, the steps,
Yeah.
while the RPF provides the map,
Yeah.
the understanding of the terrain.
That's a great way to put it. They complement each other, creating a holistic approach to skill development that combines physical training with a deep understanding of movement principles.